Hi there, welcome to the third series on endgames. This one's going to be for more advanced players than the first two that I did. And the first video I'm going to look at here is about a topic which comes up in bishop endgames called Pawnitisation. And this is where the bishop is rendered ineffective by the opponent, by the weaker side's placement of his pawns. So in this particular example you can see in front of me, white is the whole bishop up, he has an extra light squared bishop. And the way that black can play against this bishop is by moving his two pawns which are currently on light squares, see in H7 and C6, onto dark squares. So he can begin by playing either pawn, so let's start with say H6, moving that away from a light square so that white's bishop can never attack that pawn. White can start by trying to fix the final pawn onto a light square when he'd then be able to attack it at leisure. So for example, if black played king f6, which would be a big mistake, playing c5 followed by sacrificing that bishop. So let's say black went to connect the kings. White would then queen this pawn and have an easily winning queen and pawn endgame. So to avoid that, black has to then prevent white from doing that and playing c5. And now we have a situation where we'd say that white has been pawnitised, or black has pawnitised white. This name is due to Siggy Mannen, who one of the strongest toy players of all time. And this actual technique is not that old. Well, compared to some other techniques, it's not actually that old. It's probably been around maybe like 10 years or so. Before that, it was kind of an invention around 2005, 2006 time, when people started actually analysing endgames a bit more seriously than before. And it comes up very, very often in games, and both sides have to be aware of it, either if you're trying to avoid the opponent from doing it, or trying to put it into practice yourself. It's also something that computer programs are really terrible at spotting. They'd still say that white's a piece up in this position, even though he can't make any progress. If we go back to the original position again, and we change it so that it is white to move, you can see that white can actually avoid black from setting up this draw. If he was with the move c4, so this has a dual threat. You're threatening both bishop c2 check when you'll give up the bishop for the pawn on h7, and also c5, which you saw was effective in the previous line that I showed you a minute ago. So if black plays h6, now c5, followed by this bishop maneuver with a win, and if black sees that one and tries to stop, plays c5 instead, then bishop c2 takes on h7. Again, this pawn will then race up the board and queen with an easily winning endgame. So often it's important to recognise it very quickly and put into practice your own plans. I'm going to show one final example, which is a slightly more complex example here. And both sides have their plans here. So white is planning to play just f5. He's got a different coloured bishop here, a dark square bishop, and he's hoping to play f5. So if, say, black puts a pawn on the right coloured square, so you might have the right intentions playing g4, but after f5, white is now completely winning with this bishop b2 takes f6 manoeuvre. So black's best try is to play move f5, and then follow up with g4. So if white, for example, now just move the bishop, black would play g4, and will achieve a fairly straightforward draw. So white will attack that other pawn, that will also move, and white can't make any progress. It's just a sample line. Black will just move back and forth with his king, and there's really nothing that the white can do to disrupt the momentum. So if we go back, white has to prevent that at all costs, and the best way to do that is to play g4. And black now can't really prevent bishop b2 to f6 captures on g5, this manoeuvre from the bishop. He can try to prevent it by capturing a pawn on the king side. However, he'll be left with a disturbance in the symmetry of the pawns, which will basically mean that the extra piece will then actually count. So for example, if he plays, first of all to show, if he does nothing, then this manoeuvre will come in. Let's say he moves the king, the bishop comes in and captures the pawn. However, if he makes a capture, let's say h takes g4 here, white will then capture the other pawn and create an imbalance, so both sides now have a passed pawn, and this will mean the extra bishop means that even though black seems well ahead in the pawn race, white can just waste moves forever with this bishop. This way he's doing it a bit more cleverly, he's preventing even a connection of the kings, but he doesn't necessarily have to, because the queen and pawn endgame would be a complete win. Even when black does connect the kings like so, you can simply create a path for the king. In this case you don't need to, you can play king g1 with this horizontal attack, and if king f2, then queen takes f3 wins. So that's really pawnitisation. The next video will be looking at king and pawn endgames, and some techniques you can use there.